Let us continue our discussion on the characteristics of fluid in motion. That is, we are continuing our discussion on fluid kinematics. So, for the analysis of fluid in motion, or for describing fluid motion, as we already told, we will follow the Eulerian approach. So, in Eulerian approach, we know how to calculate the velocity components as well as acceleration components. So, that calculation of for velocity components and acceleration components, that approach we will be using throughout the description of the fluid in motion. And now we will we will move on to another topic in fluid kinematics, that is classification of fluid flow. So, this fluid flow is classified into various categories by considering whether the flow parameters changes with time, whether the flow parameters changes with the position, that is space coordinates, whether it is an ordered flow or it is a fully chaotic flow, or whether the flow characteristics such as velocity and acceleration etc. can be expressed in single space coordinates, 2 space coordinate or 3 space coordinates, or whether there is rotation happening with respect to the flow molecules, or rotation is happening for the flow molecules during the course of flow, and whether the flow is highly viscous or inviscid, that means non-viscous in nature. So, we have got classification of fluid flow by taking into account the various characteristics of fluid flow. So, first we will discuss the classification: steady as well as unsteady flow. That is the first classification. Second classification of fluid flow: uniform and non-uniform flow. Third, compressible and incompressible flow. Fourth, 1, 2, 3 dimensional flow. And fifth, rotational and irrotational flow. So, these 5 are the major classification of fluid flow. So, we will discuss one by one in detail. First, steady and unsteady flow. So, as the name indicates, steady flow means the flow parameters, especially velocity, pressure, density, etc., does not vary with time. So, there is no temporal variation for these parameters or essential flow characteristics with respect to time for a particular position occupied by a fluid element. So, as far as Eulerian approach is concerned, each fluid element is occupying a particular position. So, for that particular fluid element occupying that particular position, there is no temporal variation for the velocity, pressure, density, etc. So, with respect to time, this velocity, pressure, density, etc. does not change, or since it is constant, velocity is constant or pressure is constant or density is constant, its first derivative with respect to time will be 0. So, that is written over here. So, the first derivative, that is dou u by dou t, first derivative of velocity in x direction, dou u by dou t, dou v by dou t, dou w by dou t, dou p by dou t, dou rho by dou t, etc. equal to 0. That is no change in velocity with respect to time. So, what will be unsteady, or it is also called a transient flow. So, transient flow during the course of time, ultimately it will become steady after certain time. So, the property changes with time. That means dou u by dou t etc. not equal to 0, or u, v, w, p, rho are not constant with time. So, we can see, or we can cite a lot of various examples for the fluid flow situation for steady flow as well as unsteady flow. So, generally in our engineering practice, most of the flow conditions are unsteady in nature. So, we will see an example for unsteady flow. So, unsteady flow to happen, what is the basic criterion for the unsteady flow to happen? With respect to time, there should be change in velocity. So, how it can happen? For example, if you take a pipe, at the end of the pipe a valve is fixed and the flow is happening, and we gradually close the valve, what will happen? If you are gradually closing the valve, it will slowly reduce the discharge or flow rate through the pipe. So you know discharge means flow rate, that is liters or meter cube of water passing per second through the pipe. So if you are gradually closing, what will happen? Q, that is designated as discharge, it is a product of area into velocity, area of cross section of the pipe into velocity. Area of cross section, if it remains constant, there is change in velocity. So a pipe that is fixed at the end with a valve, and if you are gradually closing or opening the valve, that is the best example of an unsteady flow. So it is written here, see, the velocity of flow through a constant cross-sectional area pipe at constant pressure is an example of steady flow. So if it does not change the valve setting, it will be a steady flow if the flow is happening through a constant diameter pipe. So flow through a constant cross-sectional area, that means constant area pipe at constant pressure. Unless we change the valve setting, there is no change in pressure. So constant diameter pipe with the constant pressure, and if flow is happening, the velocity of flow is constant, and that is an example of steady flow. So water coming out of a tap when it is just opened is an example of unsteady flow. That is what I have just said. So there is a tap, and at first opening, if it is just opened, what happens? There is unsteady flow in nature. So there is change in velocity with respect to time. That is an example of unsteady flow. Similarly, flow through a gradually opening or closing valve is another example of unsteady flow. So generally in nature, almost all the flow conditions or the flow systems are unsteady in nature. For the flow to become steady, so the simple example is a constant diameter pipe with constant pressure settings. Okay, so that is so you should clearly understand what is a steady flow and what is an unsteady flow. So the only variation we represent is with respect to time, not with space coordinate. So if you are specifying the variation of these flow properties such as velocity, pressure, density, etc. with respect to space coordinates, we have two types of flow. One is uniform and the other one is non-uniform flow. So at a particular instant of time, all the fluid particles occupying various space locations in the fluid domain are having same properties. So what does it mean? If you consider a pipe, okay, of d diameter and length L, at the end of 10 seconds, so flow is happening. So the flow domain that we consider is, or the flow system that we consider is a pipe that contains water, that is flowing with water through the pipe, and the length is L and the diameter is d. So that water contained in the pipe is the flow domain or the flow system. Okay, so at the end of 10 seconds or 9 seconds or at the end of generally t seconds, okay, if all the points or all the space coordinates of the flow domain are having same velocity, it is called a uniform flow. At the end of 12 seconds, it will be having a different velocity, but all the space coordinates at the end of 12 seconds having the same velocity. So what does it mean? Velocity does not change with respect to space coordinates, but velocity changes with respect to time only. That means there is temporal variation, there is no spatial variation for the fluid property. That means first derivative of velocity or pressure or density with respect to any space coordinate, S, it is represented as S, maybe the S may be X, Y or Z. So dou U by dou S at a constant time, at a particular time, it is 0. So that means U does not change with space coordinate. Or dou U by dou X equal to 0, dou U by dou Y equal to 0, dou U by dou Z equal to 0. So what is non-uniform flow? The opposite of what we have just said. So there is change in flow property with space. That means there is change in velocity with space. So that is dou U by dou S at a constant t not equal to 0. So if you take a pipe of constant diameter, a straight pipe of constant diameter, so whether the flow happening through the pipe is a uniform flow or non-uniform flow. So what is the definition of uniform flow? At a particular time, all the points or the flow points or the flow elements in the pipe will be having same velocity. So if it is a constant diameter pipe, all the points are having same velocity unless we change the valve setting. Okay. Then what will be an example of non-uniform flow? Suppose we have a tapering pipe, or gradually decreasing cross-sectional area pipe, or gradually increasing cross-sectional area pipe. Okay, so what happens if the flow happening through a nozzle? That is the best example. That means converging type, gradually decreasing area of cross-section. So velocity is different at different locations. If you consider a nozzle, at the end of the nozzle, the area of cross-section is smaller than the area of cross-section at the beginning. So it is gradually converging area of cross-section. So as it is converging, the velocity is increasing. Okay, as the area reduces, velocity increases. That means at a particular point of time, all the points does not have same velocity, or all the fluid particles are having different velocities. So that is an example of non-uniform flow. So you should understand that. So we'll see some practical examples for better understanding of the concepts of steady flow and uniform flow, non-uniform flow, unsteady flow, etc. So steady uniform flow, you see, the best example is, as we already told, flow of water in a pipe of constant diameter. If it is constant diameter, it is uniform flow at constant velocity. At constant velocity means steady flow, since the pressure setting is constant. So constant velocity water flow through a constant diameter pipe is an example of steady uniform flow. An example of steady non-uniform flow. So what should happen for steady non-uniform flow? The diameter of the pipe should vary. So flow of water in a pipe of tapering diameter, or gradually decreasing cross-sectional area diameter, or gradually increasing cross-sectional area diameter with constant velocity is an example of steady non-uniform flow. And now unsteady uniform flow. So flow through a pipe of constant diameter. Okay, since it is constant diameter, the flow is uniform, connected to a pump, pumping at a constant rate, which is then switched off. That means you have a pump that is pumping water through a constant diameter pipe. Okay, if it is continuously pumping, it will be a steady uniform flow. And if pump is suddenly switched off, what will happen? If the pump is suddenly switched off, its discharge reduces gradually. Discharge or water flow through the constant diameter pipe reduces gradually. That means there is gradual reduction in the velocity of water. Gradual reduction means with respect to time there is reduction in the velocity. So it is uniform, but it is unsteady, since there is temporal variation for the velocity since the pump is switched off. And the last one is waves in channel. It is an example of unsteady non-uniform flow, because velocity, it's vary with time, since it is wave pattern, and also it varies with the space coordinate also. So that is a particularity of wave in channel, wave flow in channel. So we should understand the basic difference between steady and uniform flow, or steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform flow. There should not be any confusion between these four sets of flow, and you should be able to identify in practical cases various examples, and you can correlate with steady flow or steady uniform flow, as we have just seen, unsteady uniform flow, etc. So you are expected to read more on this and correlate with the type of flow. Okay, and the next classification is compressible and incompressible flow. So while dealing with flow properties or fluid properties, not flow properties, while dealing with the fluid properties, we have seen the property of fluid, that is compressibility. Compressibility, as we already told, it is the ease with which a particular fluid domain can be compressed, and there we introduced a term called compressibility. Okay, so compressibility means here there is no change in density. While discussing about the compressibility as incompressibility of fluids, we had told that density is a major parameter. If the density of the flow does not change from point to point, okay, that means density is constant, then the flow is termed as an incompressible flow. Okay, constant density. For example, liquids. So we have already told for liquids, liquids are generally treated as incompressible. Because why? Because for changing its volume, large amount of pressure has to be applied. That means there is no appreciable change in density. So liquids are treated as incompressible, and generally gases are treated as compressible. So there is substantial change in the density. That is why we study compressible fluid flow as a separate course, or gas dynamics, then especially the characteristics of air with respect to temperature, with respect to position, etc. So rho equal to constant, it is incompressible flow. Rho not equal to constant, that is compressible flow. And depending upon the space coordinates in which the flow characteristics such as velocity and acceleration can be expressed, we have three categories: one-dimensional flow, two-dimensional flow, and three-dimensional flow. So one-dimensional flow, that means velocity, acceleration, etc. can be expressed as a function of one space coordinate. For example, here u is written as f1. f1 means a function of x and t. That means velocity is a function of time and also one of the space coordinates. So the velocity in the other two directions are zeros. So this is not a practical case, because in our practical cases there are three components for the velocity, because we have to consider the spatial variation along x, y and z directions for the better analysis of the flow system. Two-dimensional flow, so it is 2 means two-dimensional flow. It's another function of x, y, t. You see here v is also x, v also exists. That means here v is a velocity along y direction, u is a velocity along x direction. So z component of velocity is 0. So it is a two-dimensional flow. It is also called surface flow. For example, flow through a thin sheet, flow over a thin sheet or a thin plate, or extremely thin flow, which are generally treated as a two-dimensional flow in some cases. So that is an example of two-dimensional flow, because x, y and t, u is a function of x, y and t. Similarly, v is also a function of another function of x, y and t. And obviously three-dimensional flow, the most practical case, it is the flow parameters are functions of three space coordinate x, y, z and with time. That is u is equal to f1 of x, y, z, t, v equal to f2 of x, y, z, t, and w, that is the velocity component in x direction, x, y, z and t. Suppose u is independent of t. If u is independent of t or v is independent of t, what will happen? You can express u as a function of space coordinates only, that is u is a function of x, y and z. So it is which type of flow? It is a steady flow, because there is no temporal variation. That means it is a steady flow. So this is the classification with respect to the space coordinates in which the flow functions can be expressed. And the next and important classification is rotational and irrotational flows. So generally these are described in correlation with viscosity of flow, or viscous flow and inviscid flow. Viscous flow means, so if we have flow, a viscous fluid flowing, generally we treat it as a viscous flow, but generally low velocity flows are generally treated as viscous flow. So if viscosity is not a major parameter, we term such flow as inviscid flow or non-viscous flow. I am just expressing an abstract definition of viscous as well as non-viscous flow. We will study in detail about the modalities of viscous flow nature. So generally this rotational flow is described as a viscous flow. So inviscid flows are treated as irrotational flow. So that is a most general classification. So we will see what is a rotational flow. So during the course of flow from one direction to another direction, or from one point to another, if the flow particles rotate about its mass centers, it is treated as a rotational flow. Okay, so I have written here the best example of rotational flow is a viscous flow. Okay, boundary layer flow. So we will deal with the boundary flow in boundary layer flow in detail later. So boundary layer, we know, is a very small layer of fluid which is adjacent to a solid boundary. So this is most pronounced in viscous flow. So in a viscous flow, inside the boundary layer, that is a very thin layer of fluid which is adjacent to the solid boundary. So inside the boundary layer, there is mass center, there is rotation of the fluid particles about its mass centers. So such type of flow is known as rotational flow. So since it is rotational, we have to apply all the characteristics of rotation. So what are the characteristics of rotation? It has got angular velocity. If there is translation, we have studied in applied mechanics, if there is translation, you have to take into account the linear velocities. Okay. If there is rotation for a particle, we have to take into account the angular velocity. Okay. So we express the angular velocity as omega. We'll discuss more on this later. Omega is the basic representation for the angular velocity, and since we are dealing with Cartesian coordinate system, this angular velocity can be expressed in three directions. For example, omega x, omega y, and omega z. Just like we express the linear velocity in three directions, Cartesian coordinate system, we express it as u, v, and w. Similarly, the angular velocity for the rotational flow can also be expressed in three Cartesian coordinate system, or in three directions, as omega x, omega y, and omega z. So that is a particularity of the rotational flow. So what about irrotational flow? Particle does not rotate. So flow outside a boundary layer, it is also called potential flow or inviscid flow or non-viscous flow. So you should understand for the time being like this: viscous flows or boundary layer flows are generally treated as rotational, whereas irrotational flows are inviscid in nature, also called potential flows. Another type of classification, so it is laminar and turbulent flow. So the major portion of the fluid mechanics is related to the laminar as well as turbulent flow, its velocity profiles, shear stress distribution, etc. So here we will just introduce what is a laminar flow, what is a turbulent flow. So what is a laminar flow? It is an ordered flow of fluid as layers. Okay. So while discussing about viscosity, we had represented fluid composed of different layers. So each layer is pulling back the layer just above it, thereby introducing a shear stress. We had discussed that. So if the fluid is flowing in the form of fine layers without crossing each other, okay, so such type of flow is known as laminar flow. So obviously that will happen which type of flow? It is possible for highly viscous fluid flow, because if the fluid is highly viscous there is chance of fluid layers flowing in an ordered way, or the fluid flowing in ordered way without much exchange of momentum between the fluid layers. So what is meant by exchange of momentum? See, each fluid layer consists of large number of fluid particles or the fluid molecules. If these fluid layers cross each other or mix each other, what will happen? Fluid molecule or a fluid particle in one layer will reach or will mix with the fluid particle in the other layer. So while they are mixing, there is exchange of momentum because there is exchange of velocity or exchange of mass. Momentum is the product of mass and velocity. So there is large level exchange of momentum happens if they are mixing. So for example, for laminar flow, since there is no mixing, there is no momentum exchange. It is also called a streamlined flow. That means the flow is streamlined in the form of fine layers. The best example is the flow of blood in our through our veins and arteries. And the opposite of laminar flow, the opposite type of laminar flow, it is turbulent flow. So what is turbulent flow? It is highly chaotic or random or mixed flow, zigzag type of flow, or there is no fixed flow patterns, there is no ordered flow happening. So as I already told, there is large level mixing of the fluid layers, so there is momentum exchange happens. So nearly all type of flow, practical flow cases in fluid mechanics are turbulent in nature. So these are two important classifications. So generally highly viscous flows are treated as laminar flow. So as the viscosity reduces, what happens? The flow is becoming turbulent. So another reason for laminar flow to become turbulent. So during the course of time, this ordered flow, that is laminar flow, there is every chance of becoming turbulent. Why it may happen? Because as the velocity increases, see, you think about this case, flow is happening, flow of oil through a pipe is happening, and the flow is happening with a velocity of 0.2 meter per second, and suppose it is laminar flow case. Okay, so the oil is flowing in the form of fine layers without touching, each layer without touching the layer just above it or below it. And suddenly, if you increase the velocity, for example from 0.2 meter per second, this is an arbitrary value, if you are increasing to say 1.5 meter per second, so what happens? Is there any chance of mixing between the layers? Yes, there is chance of mixing between the layers. So what is the chance? The chance is to become turbulent. So the laminar flow, which is happening at a very low velocity, there is chance of mixing between the layers, and gradually it will become turbulent. And again, if you are increasing the velocity, what will happen? The flow will become random or chaotic in nature, and large level momentum exchange takes place, and the extent of turbulence goes on increasing if you are increasing velocity, and if you are decreasing velocity, there is chance of laminar flow, and if you are increasing velocity, there is chance of the flow to become turbulent, and in between that there is a transition also. We will deal in detail. So this is a very simple representation. So what I have shown here is a simple representation of laminar flow. You see the flow happening in the form of fine layers. So these are velocity profiles shown, and when it becomes the turbulent regime, there is large level mixing. These are velocity vectors shown. So from the arrangement of velocity vectors, you can see in laminar flow, the velocity vectors are smoothly arranged. When it becomes turbulent, when it becomes turbulent, what happens? There is a random orientation for the velocity vectors. So this is very important, and later we will introduce a non-dimensional number called Reynolds number. Okay, that is coming in the later portions. Reynolds number, that is actually a representation or a measure of whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. Okay, so for the time being, we'll just understand that for pipe flow, if the Reynolds number is less than 2000, the flow is termed as laminar, and if Reynolds number is greater than 2000, or to be more correctly, if the Reynolds number is greater than 4000, 4000 regime, the flow is treated as turbulent. Okay, so what we have told is the classification of fluid flow in 5 different categories: steady and unsteady, that is the first category; uniform and non-uniform, that is the second category; and compressible and incompressible, that is the third classification; and the fourth classification is 1, 2, 3 dimensional flows, and the fifth and last one is rotational and irrotational flows, as well as laminar and turbulent flows. So each of these classifications you should be able to write a note along with the proper figures and proper mathematical representation. So the physical meaning, understanding the physical meaning of each of these classification is very important, along with the mathematical representation and sketching the proper arrangement. Thank you.